But I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary. Robert, good to see you.
Good morning,
Welcome
good to be here.
Back to the home of common sense. You've just tweeted about your visit to northern France, which happened over the last few days. 1,190 migrants crossed the Channel since Saturday to Monday. Is it any surprise, well, this is how easy the French make it to break in. Britain is being scammed. We've been talking this week about this TikTok migrant, a guy who came in on Saturday, filmed himself coming in on Saturday, and then found himself in a hotel by Heathrow Airport by Sunday afternoon. This on the same week that Keir Starmer said we're going to arrest everybody who comes to this country illegally. We're going to detain them and we're going to deport them. Well, clearly they're not doing that, are they?
No, look, I've been following this issue for years.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go to northern France to see for myself exactly what was happening on the ground now. And even I, having followed this for so long, was shocked by what I saw.
Yeah.
The fact that the French are aiding and abetting illegal migrants coming into the UK. I went to Lune Plage, one of the biggest camps, a lawless, dark place where there are guns, knives, people have been killed in recent times. And as I was leaving, I found a group of migrants, maybe 40 or 50 people, mostly men, and they were literally holding life jackets, walking towards the main road. So we followed them, and they then got on a public bus, didn't pay their fare, and then they went into Dunkirk, walked through the centre of the town. Everyone could see them.
Still wearing a life jacket?
Plain sight. They were holding or wearing their life jackets. I've got it all on film. And then they hid away on the edge of the beach overnight, and we tracked them there. And then first thing in the morning, they headed down to the beach and presumably to try to get a small boat to England. Everyone knew what was going on. It was happening in broad daylight. The French were literally busing them to the beaches. And then the worst thing of all was, as dawn broke, I phoned the police because I'm not a journalist. I want to stop these people coming into the UK. It's not an academic exercise to me. I think it's doing incalculable damage to our country. So I phoned the French police and said, I've just seen this group of migrants. They've literally got life jackets in their hands. They're heading towards the beach. And the police officer on the phone said, well, I'll pass it on. I'm not sure that anyone will come out. And as far as I'm aware, nobody did. So we are literally being scammed. We're wasting £800 million
what are
a
we
year,
getting the money for?
and nothing is being done. It's a complete disgrace.
It is, because obviously, you know, if you're a police officer in that part of the world, you know, one of the things you're going to see all the time is illegal migrants. You know, they're coming into your part of the world, they're living amongst you, if you like. They must be coming into the towns from time to time, whether they're doing that for good or ill. And then occasionally they're walking to the beach, and you think, well, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or even a police officer to go, there's clearly, you know, criminal behaviour going on here. Go and arrest some people. We've got a clip, I think, from your tweet. Let's have a look.
I've just spent 48 hours in northern France. I wanted to see what's going on up close.
I'm Robert, I'm from England. Why do you want to go to England?
We're told these are refugees, fleeing danger. But that's not what I found.
I live in Saudi Arabia. I'm working in office for the passport.
Well, so you think if you come to England, you won't be sent anywhere. You get to live in London. Yeah. And are you worried about getting a small boat across the channel? No.
It's not long before a man warns me to leave the camp. And moments later, bottles are thrown at me.
Hold on.
Go now.
I mean, you can see from that these are not people who are in any way cowed by your presence. They're not in any way intimidated by the fact that, you know, they may not know who you are, but, you know, the fact is they're not bothered about the fact that you're asking questions. There's a piece in the Mail today saying that these boats are now getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think it's safe to say that it's no longer actually a perilous crossing. Because I know that occasionally people die, occasionally there's a terrible incident and people drown. But it doesn't happen very often when you consider the thousands of people. We've got 50,000 people have now come since last July, since Keir Starmer has been in charge. And they're now putting as many as 107 people on these super-sized dinghies. They're not even, you can't really call them small boats anymore, can you?
No, that's right. Well, look, the camps that exist in northern France are lawless places. There's no sign of the police whatsoever. They're essentially run by gangsters, and it is mostly young men in those camps. Let's be honest. It's not what the lefty Open Borders Brigade say. Most people speak poor English. I ask people what their skills are, what their professions are. most people don't have anything to contribute to this country. These are people who, when they get here, are going to be a massive drag on the British taxpayer, diverting resources from Brits who are truly in need. And there are obviously very dangerous people in those camps. Several people have been shot dead in the very camp that I went to in the last 6 months. Do you want these people on the streets of our country? I don't.
I certainly don't.
Yesterday morning on Thought for the Day, BBC Radio 4, I was accused of being xenophobic for saying this. But I would challenge anyone to say, go to those camps, see some of the men that I saw, and imagine that they are outside your kids' school gates or in the playground, walking the high street. We don't want these people in our country.
Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine it, Robert, because you just go down to Canary Wharf, where a boy yesterday was apprehended walking into somebody's house.
That's right.
A woman's house, a blind woman, who the police apparently have said they're not going to do anything to him because he didn't steal anything. It's like, hang on a minute, you know, these people are wandering around the streets of this country, being put up in hotels, being given food, sustenance, you know, money. They've been given credit cards sometimes to go out and gamble if they want. It's an absolute disgrace. I said this morning, I was quite angry this morning, I was like, you know, if you pay taxes in this country, if you do the right thing, if you raise your family, if you try and save money, if you try and put something away for, you know, at a rainy day or for your inheritance to pass on to your kids, you're a mug. Because basically there are so many people now in this country coming here, not doing that, and just living off the rest of us.
Yeah, and look, it isn't even actually about whether these are good or bad people, and some are obviously bad people. It's that they've just got no business in our country.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be coming to our country and diverting resources that Brits need. We're not a receptacle for all of the people in the world. We are a country with borders, and we have to put our own people first. And when I was sat at daybreak on Dunkirk Beach, having phoned the police and then basically laughed at me, I thought, what would our, you know, forebears who had sat on that beach in 1940 have thought about this situation, that we were so weak as a country that we couldn't tackle some jumped up gangsters and some rubber dinghies, and we were going to allow this to happen to our country. It's a disgrace that the French are treating us this way, but it's also shameful that we have such weak and gutless leaders, that we haven't done what needs to be done. Because the tragedy of the situation is we know how to fix this. Change our human rights laws, get out of these outdated treaties like the ECHR, and deport every single one of these migrants. If we did that, then all this would go away.
Of course.
The misery, the violence, the deaths in the Channel, the incalculable cost here with the hotels and the violence and the sexual crimes that are happening in our own country, it would all go away. We just need Keir Starmer and our whole political elite, frankly, to step up and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We've actually got the clip from Radio 4. Let's have a listen to what they said yesterday.
A front-page story in the Mail on Sunday quoted Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick talking about his fears for his young daughters. He said, "I certainly don't want my children to share a neighbourhood with men from backward countries who broke into Britain illegally and about whom we know next to nothing." These words echo a fear many have absorbed. Fear of the stranger. The technical name for this is xenophobia.
That's Dr. Chris Kandaya, who didn't reveal, and neither did the BBC, that he's a trustee of a refugee charity. Now, far be it from me to make any accusations about whether he makes any money out of that. He may not. But he represents that kind of ridiculous middle-class elite of people who think all immigration's great, you know, all migrants are good people and they enrich our society. It's complete nonsense, and nobody in this country believes it anymore.
No, look, it's always you know, a pleasure to wake up in the morning and find yourself smeared as a racist before breakfast.
It's always good,
on Radio 4.
Get used to it.
I am used to it, Mike. Don't worry about that. But they've belatedly apologised and taken the thing down. Although why the BBC keep making these mistakes, I don't know. And I think they're forced to do it because
we do know.
Because there's flagrant bias in the organisation. But the public won't stand for it anymore. We're absolutely sick of this. And this bloke, who I don't really know, but he is not telling the truth. He's basically lying to the British public, and we all know that. We can see for ourselves what's happening on the streets. These arrests that are being made on an almost daily basis, the sexual offences that we're hearing, the men who are being charged, who have been staying in the hotels. This has got to come to an end because we want to have a simple principle where we put the safety of the British public first. I'm never going to put the safety of an illegal migrant or their well-being above our own women and girls. And yes, I am worried as a father about what's happening on the streets of our country, as I think are millions of people.
Of course they are.
And when I look at those protests, there might be a small number of people who are intent on causing trouble, but the vast majority of people, not many, the vast majority of people there are just fair-minded, patriotic people who are worried about their communities, and their patience has snapped.
Exactly right. Let me read you this from Marco in Swindon. He says, "Good morning, Mike. Thank you for highlighting the reality of grim Britain. I live in a relatively nice area of Swindon where they recently opened an HMO just up the road on my estate. 7 Afghan lads were moved in and they are already stealing from the local co-op, screaming and shouting and playing music all night, and the police will do absolutely nothing about it. The only escape I get is jumping into my van and going to work. Even now, it's not even worth it. Try and stay strong, Britain. I'm sure there will be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel when Reform UK come into power." I get these messages all the time now because every place you go in Britain, and you've seen it up and down the country with these protests, you know, from whether it's Bournemouth, whether it's, you know, Diss in Norfolk, whether it's Canary Wharf, whether it's out in Epping, you know, people are just fed up to the back teeth because they can see what's going on in front of their very eyes. You know, they don't have to listen to, you know, Thought for the Day to wonder whether or not Britain is a wonderful, green and pleasant land, or whether all these kind of people like, you know, John Rentoul and Fraser Nelson tell us actually crime's down and Britain's really great and why are you all complaining of it? It's a far-right sort of trope. It's all, we can see what's happening. You just have to walk out here at London Bridge. You know, I'll walk out here at 10 o'clock and there'll be probably a crime committed before my very eyes, right? And we all know that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, look, I've spent a lot of the summer going to visit some of these places. I've been to Fareham, I've been to Altrincham, I've been to Diss.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the protests myself. And these are just good people who are genuinely worried about their communities. And I think that people feel that they are mugs.
Yeah.
They are going to work every day, they're paying their taxes, and yet you've got this group of people breaking into our country, flagrant abuse of our laws, who are then being given all of these benefits. And it's got to end. It's now got to end. Enough is enough. And we know how to do it. Don't rely on the kindness of strangers. The French could stop this tomorrow, but why are we wasting our time on state visits and hundreds of millions of pounds when we can see that they're not doing anything to tackle this? We have to do it ourselves. That means changing the laws and deporting every single one of these migrants who come into our country. And look at other countries. Australia fixed this within weeks when they did exactly the same.
Greece has done exactly the same thing.
Greece have taken action. Look what's happened in the United States, where within months the Trump administration has secured the southern border. This can be done. A better way is possible. We can restore order in our country, but it will require real leadership and determination.
Robert, stay with us if you can, because we've got lots of other things to talk to you about as well. This from Jenny in Bicester. The Home Secretary announced people advertising illegal channel crossings online could face up to 5 years in prison under a new offence the government announced. So why has this person not been arrested? We're talking about the guy in the Sun, who is, of course, he's supposedly from Afghanistan, we think. He's known as the TikTok migrant because he's been live streaming his lovely time that he's having here in the UK. I don't understand. Robert Jenrick's here. Sorry, I should probably mention that in case you've only just joined us. Shadow Justice Secretary. How has he not been arrested? You know, they know where he is. He's in a hotel, a Crown Plaza hotel at Heathrow Airport. We know that he's come into the country illegally. He was processed through Manston, which is the place in Kent where everybody goes. And he's now been, you know, unlike what was said to be happening, he was not arrested, he was not detained, and he has not been returned, right? Why are the Home Office or the Border Force not just going to arrest him in that hotel?
Yeah, they should go and arrest him tomorrow, shouldn't they? And they should
deport today.
And they should deport him.
Yeah,
I mean that's the point.
Right.
Like, we want this person out of our country.
He's basically advising people how to break into Britain.
Yeah.
Surely that is an offence by any stretch of the imagination.
The astonishing thing is, there's been this group of people in our country, these kind of human rights lawyers, and frankly a lot of politicians, who've gone around saying that this is an incredibly complex, uniquely difficult issue. Yeah. Actually, it's quite simple.
Really not, yeah.
It's actually quite simple, isn't it? And the people you meet when you go into the camps in France, these people smugglers, these are just jumped up gangsters.
Yeah.
They're not like criminal masterminds.
No.
Like, you can find these people within minutes when you walk into the camps.
Right.
These people just need to be arrested. and you've got to deport all of the migrants when they come into our country. It's really as simple as that. You don't need to spend billions and billions. You don't need to change the law so you can use counter-terrorism powers to go after these people. It's actually relatively simple. It's just that our leaders, and Keir Starmer is the worst example of it, are not prepared to do what actually needs to be done. So they're essentially gaslighting the public every day, saying, we'll change this law, we'll do that, we'll spend £5 million on this or that, in order to distract from the fact that they won't do what actually needs to be done. And they're too bothered about outdated treaties, international law, their own reputations on the sort of gilded circuit of lawyers, to do what really has to be done to make the British public safe.
You're having some success with this kind of citizen MP thing that you're doing, right? Famously, you went on the underground and caught a lot of people walking through gates and not paying and all of that sort of thing. Chris Philp was suddenly picked up on it as well. He was over in France, I think, and he was on a boat in the Channel a couple of days ago. Is this a new thing? Is this how you feel as a politician, that you can kind of communicate better with the people because you won't then be accused of being out of touch?
I think you just need to get stuck in. I think people are sick of hearing politicians.
I mean, were you scared when you were in that camp?
Well, that's a fairly dangerous place, actually. I mean, people have been killed there, and not many people go these days as a result, and some people take security and so on, which we didn't do. But my view is that people don't want to hear politicians just in Westminster making speeches, pontificating. They want to hear people getting stuck in. They want to see them out and about, whether it's in the camps in northern France or just taking up everyday issues like fare dodging, like shoplifting, like tradesmen having their vans broken into and their tools nicked. These are the issues that I've taken up in recent times. And more importantly, getting things done, shaming the authorities into taking action. And if you go back to the fare dodging video that I did, I see from the latest stats that the number of people being fined for not paying their fare on the underground shot up.
I mean, I've
gone up by 50 or 60% as a result.
I've seen more enforcement officers on the tube generally, actually, since then. So
look, I think
take the credit if you will.
Well, it was me and the outcry that happened after the video. But look, you can get things done, get stuck in, show to the public that you understand everyday issues and you're really trying to make the country a better place.
You had a meeting with J.D. Vance, I believe, this week in the Cotswolds. He's very concerned, as we all are, about freedom of speech in this country. It's hard to sit here now, I think, as a British subject and say we have free speech, because we don't, do we?
I'm very worried about freedom of speech in our own country, as across the West, as is J.D. Vance, and I think he's been absolutely right on this issue. I think he did a brilliant speech in Munich.
Did you talk about
earlier
that?
In the year? Yeah, it was one of the topics that came up. And one of the things that I'm particularly worried about now is the Labour government's attempt to create a legal definition of Islamophobia, which I think is going to make it very difficult for people.
Trying to do that?
They are taking that forward, and that's going to make it very hard to have an honest debate about radical Islam, which I'm really concerned about. We already have a massive problem in this country with hate preachers, with anti-Semitism, and if we get to a point where no one can even mention these things for fear of a knock at the door by the police, then that's a worrying development. And I want the police to be focusing on the things that really matter, like shoplifting and burglary and mobile phone theft, the crimes that are clearly not being tackled right now.
Low-level crimes, they call them, the police. But
that is not the way any of us think of it, is it? These are not minor crimes.
No.
They have an immense impact on people's lives. You know, think of a tradesman who wakes up in the morning and finds that his van's been broken into and his tools nicked. Well, that's his livelihood destroyed.
Totally.
And customers let down for days, weeks maybe. Sometimes it's hard to recover from that kind of thing. And yet the police often don't even turn up or aren't raiding the car boot sale in which these things are being sold in plain sight. So we need a complete change in the way that policing is done. And I want the courts to step up as well, because I don't understand how someone like Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months when you see a case in Hull the other day of a man with 100,000 child sexual abuse images on his computer given a second chance, not sent to jail. This is wrong. This is why people have a sense that there's two-tier justice
that they've
in
lost
this country.
faith. Absolutely right. I've got to ask you about Afghanistan. When you were in government, there was a super injunction sought and granted to Grant Shapps when he was Home Secretary, resulting in tens of thousands of Afghan refugees coming here. As it turns out, many of them probably didn't actually help the British Army. Did you know about that? You were said to have been one of those who knew about it.
Yeah, I was informed in late summer of that year, and then actually left government relatively shortly afterwards because I resigned over another immigration issue.
So that wasn't connected? You didn't resign because of...
No, I didn't, although it contributed to the general sense that I had that immigration was being poorly handled by the government and that there was absolutely no capacity in our country to handle all of these people coming in. The scheme that was ultimately set up was established after I left government, so I didn't know about that. But during the period that I was involved in this, myself and Suella Braverman, the then Home Secretary, were having none of it.
Yeah.
We said that none of these people could come into the country. We were not booking any more hotels for people. And so almost no Afghans under this scheme or any other came into the country during the period that we were in the Home Office. After we left, a scheme was created by others and numbers rose. What we felt was there's no capacity, the hotel's already a national disgrace without creating more of them, and we were very worried about people coming into this country from a part of the world where there's frankly a medieval attitude towards women. This is something that I've said repeatedly since then, often being criticised for saying it, but I stand by those remarks. There are countries with backwards attitudes, and we should be wide-eyed about the effect of having tens of thousands of those people in our country.
Yeah. Would you kick them all out?
Well, I want us to support the very small number, or relatively small number, of people who did support, brave people who supported our troops, like the interpreters who work with special forces. But all of these other hangers-on who seem to make some tangential claim to have been part of the British effort.
Many of them don't even speak English.
Many of whom don't speak English. They shouldn't be in our country. And it's been a massive failure that those people have been brought in and now it seems are going to be given houses and benefits and an entire life in the UK. Well, I think you've got to be very careful about who came in, whether they are the right people or not, but I certainly wouldn't have created the scheme that was established.
No. Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Good to see you.